everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Meditation Channel. Hi, welcome. My name is Jacqueline. I'm a meditation coach and a group facilitator for drug and alcohol. So today I thought we would talk about meditation, the power of meditation, and why practicing meditation is so important. Okay, so I didn't become a meditation coach just out of nowhere. I became a meditation coach because I'm extremely passionate about meditation. I'm extremely passionate about transforming people's lives. And obviously this began because I wanted to transform my own life. So I'll take you a little bit back in time. I wasn't always so positive or so happy. In fact, I wouldn't even call myself a positive person at all. Positivity is something that I had to learn. Positivity is something that I had to understand, that I had to grow within myself in order to make it a habit, in order to implement it into my daily life. And meditation was a huge factor with that. I have a history of suffering from severe depression, from a panic disorder, from anxiety, from self-harm. I mean, you name it, I had it. And my life was just not going the way I wanted it to go. And so I soon realized that most of the issues that I was having, of course, there were problems on the outside, but a lot of those problems were amplified by what was going on in here. And I had realized that I had some serious mental problems. I had some serious just negativity and just not a very helpful way of seeing life, of seeing myself, and of my way of approaching life. And so at some point in my life, I decided to dedicate my entire life to healing, to being a better person, to really essentially become my own hero, to be proud of who I am, to really just change, and as you know, change is not easy. Change is a very difficult thing, and it doesn't just take physical discipline, it takes mental discipline, and of course it takes emotional discipline. But above everything else, for me personally, it also took spiritual discipline. Meditation became a regular practice when I understood that in order to fix my life, I had to fix my mind. The way we think has a huge influence on our reality. In fact, Dr. Joe Dispenza says this: your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made of the way you think. Therefore, the way you think affects the way you feel. And the way you feel will inevitably influence the way you act. Now, in order to change your reality, you need to change your personality. So you need to change the way you think. Therefore, it will influence the way you feel, and therefore it will make changes in the way you act. Now, the old version of me was very depressed. I would wake up every single morning and I would start saying very negative things to myself. Things like, I'm a loser, nobody cares about me, I'm never going to succeed, nobody loves me, my parents don't love me, my friends don't love me, I'm never going to find love, I'm broke, yada, yada, yada. And you can imagine that kind of way of thinking. What type of feelings was that creating within myself? And therefore, I had anxiety, I had depression, and also I had addiction problems. So I just hated myself, every aspect of myself. I never thought I was enough. I never thought I could do enough. I never thought I was smart, beautiful, you name it, okay? With that kind of feeling, what do you think my actions were? I was depressed. I was not willing to try and do something positive because that is such a contradiction to how I was feeling. I was attracting terrible people in my life, some good people, don't get me wrong, but mostly let's just say with a relationship, I would sabotage the good relationships and I would be attracted to the bad relationships. Financially, I wasn't stable at all. Career-wise, I was miserable. I was waitressing, which I don't even know how I did it for so long, but I am the worst waitress on the planet. I mean, yeah. So that made me even more depressed. I had addiction problems. You know, I would smoke tobacco and I would smoke marijuana all day, every day, 24/7. So, you know, my life was crap. And so at some point I realized that, you know, if I could just change the way I think, that would definitely change the way I feel about myself and others. And therefore, it might just change my reality. And I had hit such rock bottom that I was willing to do and try anything. And so guess what? I started doing affirmations, I started meditating, I started educating myself as best as possible when it came to the self-healing and self-improvement, educating myself about money, educating myself about relationships, traumas, healing. And many, many years passed and my life did improve. I am now married, I am financially stable, I have a beautiful life surrounded by amazing people. Now listen, nothing is ever perfect. There is always work to do. And the thing is though, that I had developed something that now I teach people, which is self-empowerment. And I have built a foundation where I can just rely on myself to get myself back up. I have tools now that I can use that will help me program this computer, okay? And by programming this computer, I now have power to affect and influence my life, which, by the way, that's what power means. It's the ability to influence and affect and get about what you want. Now, power, a lot of people have a negative relationship to power because people think of power as a dictator or as a bad person. Power in itself is not a bad thing. It's a tool. Now, how you use that tool, that's up to you. And yes, of course, it can be used for bad, but it can also be used for good. So just remember that with power comes great responsibility, and it is up to you how you use that power. So how does this all fall into meditation? Well, meditation to me is really the most powerful way to get to know yourself. It is the only way that you're really going to build a relationship with yourself, but above everything else, with your subconscious mind. Now, here's the thing. There are different levels to the mind, right? We have the unconscious, we have the subconscious, we have the conscious, and what I like to call the supermind. Now, we are mostly functioning on a conscious, well, actually, we're functioning on a subconscious level 95% of the time, but we think we're functioning on a conscious level. Now, healing does not happen on a conscious level, because if it were to happen on a conscious level, you would know what's wrong with you, and then you would just fix it. Humans are like this. We are a car, and our brakes are broken, but we changed the engine. We made it better, but we didn't fix the actual problem. And so when it comes to healing, we need to access the subconscious. And the subconscious is just below the conscious. So these are things that are hidden underneath, but that we can become aware of. This is why also shadow work is so powerful, right? Because it's in the shadow and because it's in the shadow and we're placing the light upon it so that we can bring it up to the surface and heal it. Now, meditation is one of those many tools in order to access the mind. So you think about it, how often do you sit with yourself? How often do you shut off all of the outside distractions? Your relationships, visuals, social media, the news, whatever it is. How often do you really go within and be with yourself? And this is why meditation is possibly one of the only tools to really build that relationship with yourself. Now, what happens when we meditate is essentially we slow down our brain waves and we tap into theta waves, which is kind of like a drowsy state, right? Now, this is when our conscious mind shuts down and our subconscious mind amplifies. I always tell my clients that you got to think about the subconscious mind kind of like a dream state. The language of the subconscious mind is not crystal clear. It's not obvious. The subconscious speaks to us through images, feelings, sensations, colors, weird thoughts. That's how the subconscious makes itself known. And so it is our job to go within and learn to listen, learn to build a relationship, a communication with our subconscious, to understand it so that when that thought, when that feeling, when that sensation shows up, we're like, I know what that is. Think about it kind of like when you're interpreting a dream, right? Let's just say in the dream state, when you see water, oftentimes water represents emotions, okay? So let's just say you're meditating and you're seeing the color blue, okay? So then you're specifically thinking about something about you're having communication blocks. Well, blue is the throat chakra. It's the color of the throat chakra. Now, this is just a very random example. Everybody's going to have a different experience when they meditate. And once again, guys, there are a million different types of meditations out there. Okay, there is transcendental meditation, there is mindful meditation. I mean, you name it. Okay, so the type of meditation that I've created for myself is where I communicate and do visual imagery. And it helps me to basically align with certain energies and frequencies through my meditations. So, by the way, I highly recommend that you check out my meditations if you haven't already. I have a lot of people that say that it really does help them, and it helps them to heal and understand themselves on a much deeper level. So once we develop this relationship with our mind, number one, we begin to program this computer the way that we want it to. So we learn to calm our nervous system down. We learn to not be so impulsive in our reactions to things, people, places, and things. I always say that meditation for me is like brushing my teeth, right? So I can go one day without brushing my teeth, maybe 2 days. After 3 days, it starts showing, and that's what it's like for me with meditation. It has become a priority in my life. I practice it 20 minutes every morning. Sometimes I meditate several times throughout the day, depending if I'm teaching or not, but it immediately takes me into a calm, peaceful place, and it allows me to regulate my nervous system. And every time I do this, I discover more and more about myself that I didn't know that I was capable of. And above everything else, it has amplified my ability to manifest in my life, to create the life that I really want. So essentially, I don't allow my thoughts to dictate my actions anymore. I choose my thoughts, and therefore I choose my actions. Because think about it this way: if you want to get a stronger body, if you want to become really, really fit, what do? You go to the gym, right? You work out. So if you want a stronger mind, guess what? You got to meditate to go within your mind, to get to know your mind. And a lot of people have a hard time with it. It's not meant to be easy. Change is not easy. But the more you practice it, like anything else, the better you will get at it. So a few tips here, guys, if you want to start meditating or you're thinking about meditating. Number one, make it a reasonable time frame, okay? Now, I always tell my clients, you have no excuse that you cannot meditate. You can even meditate in your sleep. You can play a guided meditation as you're falling asleep, because your mind will listen. It will hear. It will receive the information, even if you're asleep, okay? If you're that lazy. But 10 to 20 minutes a day is absolutely perfect. Now, if you really don't have any time, 5 minutes. But the point is, you want the consistency, okay? So every day you can make 5 to 20 minutes. Now, if you know that you're really busy, if you have children, if you have an event, or if you have whatever, plan around it. I will get up an extra half an hour, an extra hour, or 2 hours if I have to make sure that my meditation is going to be practiced that day. And oftentimes we don't do it because we really don't understand or see the benefit, right? Now, some people will meditate once and will feel amazing. And some people will do it once and think it's a waste of time. That's fine. But you have to give yourself a reasonable time frame to start seeing the changes in your life. So give it a month, give it a 2-month frame. I suggest anything to be 1 year if you really, really, really want to see how much it's going to affect your life. But that's completely up to you. Now, there's a lot of people that I hear that when they start doing these things, they take it really far. And they're like, I'm going to meditate for like 2 hours a day. Chill, okay? We're not Tibetan monks in the Himalayas, okay? This is not your job. And you are more likely going to fail if that is what you're going to do, because 2 hours is a very long time to be sitting in a position. I'm not saying don't try it, but I'm just saying every single day, that's a bit of a stretch. So 10 minutes, 20 minutes, everybody can find it. So the other thing I wanted to point out is that meditation is not necessarily a spiritual practice or a religious practice. To me, it's a practice of the mind. Now, I am a spiritual person, so I do like to bring in the spiritual aspect to it, but you don't have to. At the end of the day, meditation is a practice to get to know yourself, to get to know your mind, and above everything else, like I said, your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind holds those behaviors, those patterns, those triggers that show up in the surface and that surprise you. And you don't know why you said you weren't going to drink, but then you end up at the bar. Or you don't know why you said you're not going to eat that chocolate and you still ate the entire box of chocolate. So when you meditate, what ends up happening is that you catch yourself before you act. And you oftentimes have more power in your choices, more power in your reaction to what is going on around you. The most important conversation that you will ever have in your entire life is the conversation with yourself. All right, guys, so I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'm always happy to answer. And please, please, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, have a magical day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.